today. Thank you.
Krishna, that was really, mind blown, the number of books. And thank you so much for sharing and for actually reading in the first place and sharing it with the rest of us. I had not even heard many of these books. So amazing to hear that.
Thank you. Can I stop the share so I'll be able to see everybody?
Yeah.
Completely overwhelmed, Krishna, but amazing collection of books. And I was just thinking to myself, I put it on the chat as well. Perhaps, for some of the non-readers like us, you could suggest 2 or 3 simple books that will help us kind of come further along.
So mostly my apologies, didn't want to come off as like, oh, you have to read all these books. If truth be told, there should be only one book you need to read. And if you find a message, then that's it. And it's just like rinse and repeat. But it's just that I found that like even with Bhagavad Gita, rather than reading just that one book, reading many different versions over and over again kind of help. Different ways of thinking. I cannot think all these thoughts by myself. So it helps to see different perspectives. But what I can do though is like in our chat, we can continue which area of interest somebody wants to dive deeper in, whether it be music or it be the health part or it be the Bhagavad Gita part. I'm more than happy to kind of say, oh, start with this one book and then you can go down the rabbit hole more deeper.
Right.
Awesome.
There are a couple of questions on that I kind of saw in the chat window. I'm going to summarize some of those questions and probably ask that for you on people who have asked it. First of all, some people want a list of your books. Okay.
Oh.
And that's one thing. And second thing is people also want to know if you are writing a summary of each of the book that you read. So maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so I will post my slides. I'll add a link to the place where I keep a collection of all the books I read. Krishna2.com/books.
I just posted it.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
on your behalf. Yeah, while you're talking.
So I keep a running list of the books that I read and I keep it there. And I do not, unfortunately, I want to write. That's like a very nice way. Actually, even making this presentation totally helped me put through various thoughts and like connect the graph so as to say what leads to what else. And so I will write more, but I've done only very minimal writing about the books. I share small snippets, but most of it is in like a Facebook message to a small group of friends or as like a WhatsApp message. I will try to write more consciously and put it in a proper place.
Right. Okay. So Krishna, I had a question for you. Given your background, professional background as a ML, AI, ML, and researcher, where we are trying to get the machines to become artificially intelligent and all that, and given that we don't have to be artificially intelligent as human beings, we're naturally intelligent. Do you think there's actually some sort of an algorithm in our scriptures that says, okay, hey, follow this algorithm and to the path of eternal happiness? And what's that in your view?
Oh, wow. That's a very profound question. I do not know much about like the human part. We are still trying to understand. From the AI part, I can talk a little bit because more scientific literature is there. So there, what people are trying to understand is, on one end, we have to first know how our own brain works. Without that, we cannot do things. So short digression, like a lot of the things that we see, or rather than AI, it's more machine learning, which is a statistical form of learning. So you try to see patterns, millions of them, billions of them, and then try to figure out, oh, there is this pattern that is in this data that cannot be codified as like a simple program. And that is what does all this kind of spam filtering, recommendations, identifying things, and all these things. But it still does not understand. There is this very famous Chinese room argument. So there's this person in a room and he does not know Chinese. But if you give him like a paper with some symbols, he can interpret each symbol. He has resources to infinite books and he knows exactly what to do. And then he can come up with a reply again in Chinese and then send it out of the room, slip it under the door. So now this person can give completely correct answers, but did he really understand Chinese? The answer is no. And so that is what people are saying about these machines too. They can come up with answers either in the form of program, or they can figure out patterns from the data, but they still do not understand what they are doing. And there are multiple schools of thought about how to proceed to solve this problem of this thinking part. And yeah, the jury is out. There is a lot to be done. There is no danger right now, at least, of machines becoming Skynet, in my opinion.
Yeah, just a follow-on question to that question, and sorry for
No, please.
asking this. You talked about this pattern matching, right? Pattern matching and then giving out a response. Actually, in the science towards understanding who we are, we're actually trying to break the pattern matching, isn't that? Pattern of emotional, instinctual response, which is so naturally.
That's a good point. Yeah. It does. So on one side, I think that pattern matching kind of goes more with how do we recognize objects, or how do we understand language and so on. So for example, like for an average person, if they've never seen a cat, you need to show them only some 3 to 5 pictures, and then they can understand cat in any way. But for a machine, you need to give it like 10,000 cats before it can even begin to make some progress, right? So, but it's very interesting to connect it to lot of how we have evolved biologically. We are extremely good at that. We always know this freeze fear kind of response, and we are always acting, can I survive? Can I just move on? Can I just survive this situation? This is what we are doing, and we do a very quick pattern matching to make the emotional response first, and then our mind justifies what we did. And it could very well connect well with Vedanta and meditation, of how you put an interrupt and you stop yourself for a second and then think, oh, I did it, but I don't need to really get my heartbeat up for this simple thing. So it's just like, 5 degrees up, so what? I'm just going to sweat a bit, but it's going to be okay. It's no fear of life-threatening danger as it used to be thousands of years ago.
Thank you, Krishna. Anybody else? Any questions for Krishna? We have another 5-10 more minutes before we can log off and go.
Hey Krishna, this is Mukunda. A good presentation. Like that. One question. Interestingly, you're bringing music to Bhagavad Gita. I just wanted to kind of get a perspective. Looks like very varied subjects, but and also Sanskrit, right? You talked about frequencies. Just wanted to kind of get a kind of quick bird's eye view of what you learned and what you synthesized.
On music or
yeah, music. Basically, it's a vibration, right? It's a science of vibration. As I understand, music is vibration, Sanskrit is vibration, and Bhagavad Gita at some level is kind of a articulation of some of the deeper sciences. Just what your view of that is.
That's a great point. So for me, I went about music only like for its own sake. Like I learned a little bit of Carnatic music growing up, and for me it was more how, like, I listened to a lot of cinema music, and then there is this Western rock music and so on, and then comes hip hop, and then there is classical music. How do all these various musical genres relate to each other? What the source is? And that kind of seemed to be like the same common system. And for me, the finding was like, it's the same type of frequency. Everybody starts off with a tonic note. They go to this pentatonic, and then they go to this saptaswara mode. And every culture kind of has this same parallel track that they've evolved. And from that, there is more different types of harmony coming up. With Bhagavad Gita, I am unfortunately not that well versed in the musical side of things, but it is immensely power packed with the syllables, and like not a single thing seems to be wasted there. If I may, I can add like only one thing. Like, so there is this Swami Brahmananda's mode of chanting that I really, really love. And that is my go-to version. But at the same time, kind of it looks to me like, so here is this one place where somebody is emotionally crying, breaking down. There is somebody else who's asking about his sons. There is somewhere else Lord Krishna is showing his most majestic form. And it seems to me that like somewhere that has been lost in translation. These 700 shlokas are kind of recited in the same, it's in the same meter, probably more because of error correction or the poetic style of Vedavyasa and so on. But it's chanted in the same way, seems like a little bit unfair to me. And I wish probably, like learned musicians as well as pandits, the synthesis of two should take over and give a more, like for example, even the Mahabharata TV series where the Pavitra Naya Sadhunam is being sung, it's in a more emotive, beautiful way. But needs to be done coherently as like a project for all the 700 shlokas, then I think be more relatable and elevate us higher, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, Krishna, I have a question.
Your
Sure,
first
yeah.
slide.
Yeah, Mahesh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Mahesh, please.
Krishna, your first slide, who am I?
Uh-huh.
So after reading all these books, what is your bottom line?
Still working on it. It's a work in progress. Like I said, so for me, the main takeaway was the three shlokas. So it's kind of like after that switch from reading Swami Parthasarathis and then going down more into Gita, it's Hotel California. So I can check out but never leave. So that's the same thing I keep coming to now. Any book or any situation, anything that I come to, I always see how it connects to these messages. And there are times when we can, which is very, very few. There is most of the time where I'm completely unaware and I'm just going with my stimulus response mode. And the only solution is to keep reminding Manmana, Bhava Mad Bhakta. Think about that, and then keep putting that interrupt, like the debug print statement, where you want to stop the program from going very fast. Stop, introspect, and then move on. So that is what I am trying. But on a parallel note, that who am I way of introspection and self-realization is one way. So there is Raja Yoga, there is meditation, and then there is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Independently, if you want to think of it that way, or as like as a synthesis of different percentages that you tweak as you go along. And then that is a similar way of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi used to keep asking, who am I, and go deeper. I haven't tried too much of that yet.
Krishna,
Yeah.
VP here.
Yeah.
Excellent presentation. My question was that this sentence you wrote, Shaitra Shitharam Kuru, how did you come about that? Because I thought that's a wonderful phrase.
Yep.
It's a lovely phrase.
Yeah. It is by one of the wise folks that have said. So just like you take the first syllable, last syllable, dharma, and then first word, last word, mama dharma. Somebody else said, this is like an ancient scholar who came up with, there's a story of like a scholar and a king, and then the king says, dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, what is the meaning to the scholar? And the scholar says, you have already told me the entire meaning. And he said, no, but there is like 700 more shlokas to go. No, but you said it all, dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, kshetre, dharmam kuru. And even at that point, I initially took it more from the religious side of things. Kshetra is temple. But then I read chapter 13, Shaitra Vibhaga Yoga, and then see that Kshetra does not just mean temple. It could mean school, it could mean your home, it could mean your body, it could mean your brain. So everything is a Kshetra. Wherever you are, do the best dharma that you can. And that was very, very touching and powerful for me. And it's just mind-blowing, the number of possibilities, permutations and meanings that exist hidden deeper in Gita.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so Krishna, what I wanted to ask is that when you're reading so much, did you at any point in time get confused with so many different perspectives? And did it happen that, you were complementing your reading with meditation or some practice and that helped to reconcile? Many seekers, at least I went through that, so I just want to know what's in your journey.
100% agree. I do. And I don't remember all of it as well. And I used to think, I should just read very little or try to remember every single thing. And I've tried different methods of either writing down and so on. At some point I said, the alternative is not reading. The one is reading and even forgetting, it's okay. So the way I think of it as just like either a compiled binary, like program, when it is compiled and becomes bytes, it just executes. It does not know what the source code is, but it can work perfectly fine. So either you use that model, or it's like the machine learning model where you give billions of inputs and it behaves in a particular way, but it does not know all the billion things it has seen before. And I've kind of made my peace with it. I'm just that, like whatever I read, even though I don't remember, if it is powerful enough, it resonated and connected with me, it will change my thinking, my behavior, and my understanding in a very small but subtle way. And it will keep on building, and then hopefully it will all be for the better. But the harder part is kind of reconciling with multiple things, and that leads to a lot of gridlocks. Like I said, you read Big Bang, Cosmos, evolution, and you know a way of things that can be scientifically proven. Then there is this other thing that is saying, believe me on faith. So everybody asks for one miracle, right? Like if the religious people will say, give me God, then I can explain everything. The cosmologists will say, give me Big Bang and I can explain everything after that. The evolutionary people say, give me that first magic reaction that did this life cycle and then I can explain everything about life. Everybody wants one miracle, right? And we are still not, I don't know, like if you have figured out the whole thing, but at least I've made my peace, like what I'm learning with this pure Advaita Vedanta mode with the proper teachers is that you don't have to make that choice. You can bring it into your understanding and still say, oh, you are calling it Big Bang, I am calling it Prabhava, or you are calling it energy and thing everywhere. I could call that as my Atman. And then it's still, there's like a perfect one-on-one match from that point onwards to everything else. And I can have my mental model without it going, oh, there is a conflict here. So that was like the biggest thing that happened with this switch into reading Bhagavad Gita, but more completely from the Advaita Vedanta part of way of learning.
So the programming language doesn't matter. It's the execution model that matters.
Yes. Yep. There's a joke, right? Like not even joke, like compilers are built that way. So compiler is what takes a code and then builds a program. But to have the compiler do that, you need a compiler. So it's a bootstrapping method, and it's well known in programming how you first have an initial version with what you make a program that will execute something else, and then you constantly keep building better versions. So initially when C comes up, it was written in something else. Java is written in C compiler first, built with C compiler, and then eventually Java becomes powerful. Java can be written in Java itself, and so on. It kind of progresses. So it's a very nice analogy to this programming world, or so I think.
Krishna, question. So with all these, varied subjects that you've read, are all of them, did you feel that all of them are pointing to something, the same thing eventually? Or not, maybe, I don't know.
So a couple of ways. So I initially sometimes used to be going down way more rabbit holes, like, oh, this is super interesting. And then I'll be reading about like some more philosophy related work, or it could be industrial revolution. And then it will lead on to the modern world, and then World War I and World War II, which are very deep rabbit holes. So at some point I kind of realized there is just like too much to explore. There is no point trying to pursue everything. Figure out like a few things that I am interested in. And to put it simply, it is MLM. For me, it's math, language, and music. So I just try to bring bringing it down to one of these three fields that I can connect to and learn more. And so I've kind of just stopped with those type of books and take only those things from that. But the books are diverse. There are like even within the religious study or philosophy or even Stoicism or and of course we know in Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta itself, there is Dvaita and then there is Vishishta Dvaita, and then there is so many more schools that are always divergent thoughts that try to look at it from different ways. And we have to pick and choose whatever resonates with us. There is no one right way.
Yeah, one other question, again, tying back to your research, right? Is there a possibility that, given that the human model is you sense with the 5 sense organs, then you process some information, and then you take some decision, and then respond back with another set of 5 sense organs, is there a possibility that one can create a human model which can sense like exactly how the 5 sense organs do today, and then there's a huge database somewhere at the back, okay, of collected experiences and pattern matching and all that, and then find that information and then figure out the right appropriate response to a particular individual based on, certain like psychological models. You draw some psychological models and all that. And is there such a possibility existing at all?
Not right now, but that is what they are trying though. So how do you take this multiple different types of input, sensory input, or it could be just even knowledge kind of input codified, and then try to take a thing. And even that's the biggest problem out there. That is figuring out AI if you want to put it in one sentence. It is extremely hard. That does not exist like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may, Krishna, do you think computers could teach us the Bhagavad Gita at some point in time?
That's an awesome point, and I honestly I think so too. So, for example, when chess beat the world champion, they thought, oh, there is like everything is lost, and then people kept saying, oh, but Go is infinitely harder. But then chess beats Go, and then the program beats Go. Go program beats like the world Go champion, and now it's much more harder to. It's actually not even harder. It's impossible to beat a chess or Go at a computer now. But what people learned was it actually caused more interest in chess and Go. And people learned more novel ways of how the game is played, how you could learn different strategies and attack. And now all the grandmasters use this as part of their strategy. So similarly, like once upon a time when there were no written text and so on, Shravanam was the only way that you could learn all these things, and you have to just contemplate. And I think I would have probably failed the test, like if that were the only method, or it would have taken me infinite long. I'll be stuck in third grade for 10 years before I could move on to the next set of 10 shlokas. Being able to read or having it in script form or somebody explaining it in different ways, I think is a huge advantage. And I also think like making like even things, very small things like flashcards out of Bhagavad Gita, this individual words, this is what this root word means or how it connects, or these are all the other different ways. This type of collation, I think, could definitely teach us. It will make us at least appreciate the language more, the cross references more, and be able to have a deeper understanding of the text. That's my belief, and I hope to learn that way too.
And I mean, the reason I ask is that you talked about the number of common words or the most used words in Singh. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the English language, we typically use about 5,000 words, is what I understand. Most of our living is in 5,000. So is it feasible? Is it correct to understand that Gita was written in a style and using a collection of words which were very common in that time?
Could be. So there are a couple of things there. So one is like the whole the Sanskrit literature of that era, but irrespective of the word. So English language, if you take, you'll get like various estimates, right? 20,000, 40,000 words, or 300,000 words if you start including various science and technology and terms and so on. But what common pattern that exists across all languages is this same Zipf's law. It's called the power law. So there is this very kind of a modification of the 80-20 law. There is like 10% of the words that contribute to 90% of the words that we normally speak. And then everything else kind of starts becoming rarer as we go. And we see that across. But this being a very profound poetic work, this does tend to show that, oh, there is way more words that I can. In fact, if we look at some of Kalidasa's work, you will see an even higher percentage of rare words, unique words being used. Like each word would be used only once or twice. And then there's like very few words that are repeated. That's like the, what are called the stop words, a, and, the, it, of, things like that. So that language thing is definitely there. Similarity as well as the uniqueness of the work.
Thank you.
That I think we don't have any more time to ask you more questions. Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. Look forward to continuing the journey with you and with everybody else. And thank you so much for a great day.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you. Thank you.